All right, so my name is Satya. I'm the product development lead for StoryMaps and other products. And with me today, Alan couldn't join, unfortunately, and we have Cooper in his place. It's Cooper Thomas. And together, we'll be talking about the what, why, and how, and also share a little bit of what's coming also. You guys excited? Yes, so let's get started. I'm going to actually pass it on to Cooper first, and then I'll actually do the second part of this.
Great, thanks for the introduction, Satya. So as he mentioned, my name is Cooper Thomas. It is not Alan Carroll. And in the interest of full transparency, I'm not super familiar with this material, so I'm just going to kind of wing it. Bear with me. So to begin, I want to talk a little bit about the what of story maps. And just by a show of hands, how many of you have created a story map before? Great, looks like most of you have, so I'm probably going to skim through this pretty quickly. But I think it's still useful to go over just to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. So story maps are configurable web applications that combine interactive maps and scenes with multimedia content like photos and videos and other content from the web, narrative text, and they tell stories about the world. This caption is actually a bit of a misnomer because we've seen story maps about Mars, we've seen story maps about other sort of extraterrestrial bodies, so they're not necessarily contained in scope to the planet. We'll update this for next year. Story maps are responsive, and so they're optimized to work on a variety of different devices, screen sizes, operating systems, browsers, so forth. In particular, PCs, tablets, and mobile devices. And story maps also feature these interactive WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get builders, which means that you can create a really compelling, really beautiful story without having to write a line of code. And our goal is to make sure that anyone can basically pick up story maps and create a really compelling, really cool story without needing to know a whole bunch of sort of technical mumbo-jumbo to get there in the end. Story maps are hosted by Esri in the cloud, either in ArcGIS Online or in an enterprise or portal environment. But they're also downloadable and customizable. The classic apps in particular all have sort of public repos. If you want to go and tweak them, you can do that to your heart's content. But you might end up breaking things, and that's on you. Story maps have also grown tremendously in popularity over the past 7 or 8 years. This chart is just about cut off here. But the initial story map was created in 2012, and since then you can see that the growth has been almost exponential. This number here is from June 2019, and in the past couple weeks we've actually exceeded 1 million story maps. And I believe that this figure only represents story maps that are publicly, story maps on ArcGIS Online, so there are probably tens of thousands more on sort of private enterprise or portal systems. So that's all well and good, but why do we think that place-based storytelling is actually useful or important? Our team has identified 3 primary reasons, and I'm going to run through those really quickly, and hopefully some of these will kind of maybe trigger some creative thinking on your end and maybe help you reevaluate how you're creating stories for your own audiences. The first is that stories are inherently memorable, compelling, and impactful, and they put people in a receptive state of mind. Storytelling is really at the core of human communication. We've been doing it since the Stone Age. And I think for that reason in particular, storytelling is much more likely to sort of evoke an emotional response from someone than, say, a paragraph of written narration. Or something more sort of dry and analytical and statistics-based. Purely speculation on my part, but make of that what you will. In particular, character-driven stories have proven to actually sort of rewire our brain chemistry. And what I mean by that is studies have shown that character-driven stories, and more specifically stories with some sort of protagonist, whether that's a person or a place or an animal or what have you, they trigger the production of oxytocin, which is this crazy like neurochemical that makes people more receptive and more cooperative. Oxytocin is often called like the love, I think it's called like the love hormone or something, and it's something that mothers also produce shortly after childbirth, but it's also produced by these character-driven stories, and as I mentioned just a minute ago, studies have shown that not only does character-driven storytelling trigger the production of oxytocin in readers, but that oxytocin itself actually contributes to readers' willingness to, I guess, donate to charitable causes. This particular statistic here is from a Stanford study, I think, from a few years back, but it shows that folks that were experiencing the effects of oxytocin donated 56% more to charitable causes than the control group. Second, story maps and maps themselves engage both sides of the brain, both sort of the right side, rational, hyperlogical side of the brain, and the left, creative, artistic sides of the brain. And because they're sort of lighting up both sides, I think that creates a more sort of engaging and emotionally sort of responsive experience for the reader. Maps in particular and thematic maps in particular, I guess, are designed to sort of help us make sense of geographic phenomena, and in that sense, they're really activating that right side of the brain. But maps can also be beautiful, and so too can story maps, especially when they incorporate other compelling visuals like photos and other media. And so in that sense, they're also kind of activating and engaging that left side of the brain, the more creative, more artistic, more subjective and thoughtful side. And third, story maps have proven to be really sticky. What we mean by that is that people spend a lot of time reading story maps. On average, readers spend approximately 37 seconds on a web page. And in comparison, in 2017, we found that the average time spent on our team-produced story maps was 5 minutes and 43 seconds, which is, order of magnitude more than 37 seconds. I don't actually know math if that is an order of magnitude or not, but it's a lot more than 37 seconds. So story maps engage the mind and delight the eye. They empower doing GIS without even realizing it. I think this sentence here kind of consolidates a lot of those the highlights of those 3 points that I just mentioned. They engage the mind, they make us excited, they make us think. They're also just cool to look at, and people seem to like them. And those are 3 reasons why you should consider using story maps. So if you've decided that you want to make a story map, there are a number of different things you can do to ensure that it really sings and that it resonates with your target audience. I'm going to quickly run through 9 different tips that our team has put together for effective storytelling, and in particular, effective place-based storytelling with story maps. The first is to start with the bang, and this is true for story maps as well as any other kind of digital media, really. You don't really want to kind of ease into the story. You want to present something that sort of grabs your reader's attention and draws them into the story. And this applies both to sort of the cover media. We think it's really effective to come up with a really gripping title and have like a nice animated video in the background. But it also applies to like the lead of your story, the Nut Graft. You really want to draw people in and create something that's exciting and that they're really interested in reading, rather than just sort of like a more sort of analytical, like abstract or something as the first paragraph of your story. This animation here is an example. Our team produced this story a few years ago. It went on to be one of our more popular reads over the past 18 months, and it's had sort of a long tail. And we think that this animation in the background and the dramatic title really draw readers in. The second tip is to add a hero. Again, this speaks to what I was saying earlier about character-driven stories incentivizing cooperation and donations. This hero doesn't necessarily need to be a person. It could also be a place. We love seeing stories in which a location is kind of the protagonist. But either way, having sort of a hero to root for, or an antagonist, I guess, to root against, makes stories much more sort of human and relatable and emotionally kind of, I guess it makes readers more emotionally invested in the outcome of that story. By the way, I'm just going to scroll through some of these examples really quickly, but this is a new story. This is an ArcGIS story map that I'm showing you here. It's available in our gallery if you want to sort of go through it at your own speed and check out some of these examples on your own. The third tip is to give your story rhythm. This isn't essential for all stories, but it can be really helpful to sort of establish a consistent cadence within sections and between sections in your story. We've found that this kind of rhythm provides comfort. It gives readers a sense of what to expect. And sometimes that's what they want. Again, this isn't true for all stories. In some cases, you might kind of want to surprise your reader and have these sort of jarring transitions. But in general, this is something to think about. If your content in your story is related, maybe try and make it sort of use consistent sort of patterns of presenting that information throughout your story. Here's an example where we're just looking at income across a number of different American cities, and we basically use the same model for the 5 or 6 different cities that we show. And again, this just makes it really easy for readers to they'll read through the first couple and they'll say, okay, this is what it is, I know what to expect, I'm just going to drill ahead to the city that I'm most interested in. The fourth tip is to create a little world. And what I mean by this is to create or to establish kind of a consistent visual language throughout your story. Using consistent colors, using consistent typefaces and type treatments and type sizes can really serve to reinforce sort of the narrative integrity of the story and also lends a certain degree of credibility to you as an author. We've seen our fair share of stories that use like a million different shades of like hot pink and lime green and like all these different font sizes. And there's certainly like a visual like punch in the face, but once you look at the cover page, chances are you're probably just gonna like close that tab before you have like a, epileptic fit or something. The fifth point that we want to make is one size doesn't fit all. What we mean by this is to consider your audience before you create a story. Consider what kind of devices they'll be reading your story on. If you're producing a story for sort of the general public, keep in mind that a lot of people are reading their stories on phones and tablets these days. So you might want to ensure that your story doesn't have too much really heavy, bandwidth-intensive content like 3D scenes and other sort of rich interactive media. Static maps might be more appropriate. Conversely, if you're producing a story maybe for an agency and you know that it's going to be presented on a high-powered computer, and that's the primary environment in which it's going to be shown and consumed, then you know that maybe you can use larger resolution images and you can get a little bit more crazy with some of those dynamic or interactive components because you know that the audience is going to be consuming it in an environment that supports that kind of media. The sixth tip, think big and think small. What we mean by this is alternating between large scale and small scale views, geographic views within your story. And I think this kind of ties into the one about establishing rhythm. It's really helpful and I think kind of engaging if you're maybe starting with a macro scale view of your story and then you're zooming into maybe a local case study and then maybe presenting sort of a regional context. Shifting these scales helps bring things into perspective, helps provide more sort of broader geographic context, and it also just keeps things fresh. This story here, which is about the environmental implications of beef consumption around the world, demonstrates that through these maps. So this is a global scale or small scale proportional symbol map of beef consumption. But then we alternate to these really large scale satellite imagery views of individual cattle farms throughout the world. Number 7, use both active and passive maps. Or both static and interactive maps. Again, I think this speaks to understanding your target audience, but there are also different use cases for both kinds of maps. If you really want to encourage your readers to explore the data, naturally you're going to want to use an interactive map. But if it's more important just to sort of present sort of a general trend in the data, maybe a static map is more appropriate in that case. And similarly, if you know that your readers are going to be primarily consuming this media on smaller devices or maybe areas with less sort of internet bandwidth, in those cases, static maps are also probably a little bit more, maybe a better option just because they're less resource intensive. Number 8, keep it short and sweet. We know you're passionate about your work and your hobbies and your causes, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your entire audience is just as passionate. And while it can be tempting basically to pour your whole heart into a story and make it like, a million pages long, keep in mind that remember that 37-second statistic that I said a minute ago? Yeah, story maps are sticky, but if you're basically putting a novel into your story map, chances are most people aren't going to get all the way to the bottom before they either, lose patience or get distracted or just kind of give up. There are certainly cases where it can be appropriate to produce a really long story, especially if there's kind of a consistent rhythm, or if it's maybe a tour or collection of different related points or places. But for more sort of linear, conventional journalism-style story maps, try to keep it really short and sweet, and that'll ensure that your audience gets all the way to the end and engages fully with all of that content. And number 9, make a call to action. Assuming your readers have made it to the bottom of your story, don't just leave them hanging. Give them something to do. You can use this as an opportunity to solicit donations, maybe for your own organization if you're a nonprofit, or for a cause that you're really passionate about. You could also use this to insert a button to link to external resources about content relevant to your story. Basically, by the time your readers have gotten to the end of your story, they're interested, they're invested in that content. You should really capitalize on that interest and give them something to do. So you might, for those of you that saw the plenary or have basically been here for the past few days, you're probably well aware by now that we're introducing a totally new version of ArcGIS StoryMaps. Satya is going to give you a great demo of that in just a minute, but I quickly want to touch on some of the primary reasons that we decided to start from scratch and sort of rebuild StoryMaps from the ground up. Again, I'm going to give you a real high-level overview here. The first is that if you've created a story map in the past, you know that there are 6 or 7 different templates that you have to choose between. Once you commit to a template, you're sort of locked into that. And this can be really frustrating for a lot of authors who maybe commit to like a map journal, only to realize a couple hours later that their story would actually be better served as a cascade, and they have to start from scratch. So we're trying to sort of bypass that entire pain point entirely by presenting StoryMaps as a single unified block-based builder that brings the best of all these different templates into a single authoring environment, allows you to mix and match different kinds of layouts like map journal and map tour and map series in a way that really allows you to create the story that you want and that you think will really resonate with your audience, rather than sort of constraining you to these very sort of narrow focused templates. Second, we think that great cartography is really central to story maps, but one piece of feedback that we've received intermittently over the past few years is that it can be a little bit difficult to create really simple, focused maps, especially if you don't have a lot of GIS or cartography experience. With that in mind, we're introducing a new kind of feature called Express Maps. Express Maps are interactive maps that you author directly in the story map builder. They're really optimized for locators and other simple reference maps, but you can author them in just a matter of minutes. They look really great, they perform great, and we hope that they serve as kind of a nice complement to web maps. They're not intended to replace web maps entirely, but rather work alongside them for more simple use cases. Third, we really just wanted our story maps to look very modern and feel very modern and fresh. The oldest templates were designed in like 2012, and if you've used them recently, you probably know that they look a little bit long in the tooth, and they were long overdue for a complete makeover. Additionally, we know that organizations often have very rigorous branding requirements in terms of colors and fonts and logos, and so we want to ensure that you can create a beautiful story using our tool, but that you can also sort of extend those styles a little bit further to meet the branding requirements of your own organization. Fourth, we really wanted to streamline the publishing and collaboration workflows of authoring a story map. And so we're introducing this new draft state draft and unpublished stories state for your stories. Satya will show you what this actually looks like in practice in just a moment. But one feature that we're really, really excited about is Autosave, which essentially just alleviates a lot of the stress that comes with having to remember to click save before you lose internet or your browser crashes or whatever. As a story map creator myself, Autosave is probably one of the features that I'm most excited about. It's also one of the features that I think the least about, and I think that's probably a good thing. And finally, we just wanted to leverage the latest web technologies to ensure that story maps are super performant across devices and in different environments. So we're using, I'm not a developer, so I'm not even going to try and tell you what we're doing, but they do perform much better than some of those classic apps, especially in low bandwidth environments. And we're putting a lot of thought into ensuring that you don't need to have a super powerful computer or that you don't need to have like a giant 1440p monitor to get the most out of these stories. And because we just have a single unified builder, when we do introduce new updates to the platform, we don't need to push those out to 7 different builders individually. We just have a single product, a single template now, and so it'll be much easier for us to roll out small updates like hot fixes and patches. We'll be able to deploy those with much greater frequency than we have been in the past. But it'll also be easier for us to introduce new kinds of content blocks, whether those are simple content blocks. We already have photos and videos and images, but we might add additional kinds of content blocks to the builder based on your feedback and your demand. Because we just have one builder, it's going to be much, much easier for us to do that moving forward. So those are 5 quick reasons on why we're introducing this new, or why we decided to build this new ArcGIS StoryMaps. With that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Satya, who's going to give you a little demo of the new builder.
Thanks, Cooper. So before we go ahead, I just wanted to say we love feedback, and in this room, the only way we can hear feedback is through your applause, right? So I'm going to show you a lot of stuff here. And the more feedback you give, the more you can see. How about that? Sounds good? All right. Let's get going. I actually lead a bunch of products. You might know a few of them, so 1, 2, 3, quick capture. But I'm here today to talk about StoryMaps. All right. We did release version of StoryMaps. Let's get started. All right. We actually started on this some time back. And we wanted to give this or release this at this user conference. So we did that. That's great. So let me actually go through some of the features that you might have noticed or not. And then I'll give you a demo of it. Single unified builder. I'm not going to talk more. I think Cooper gave a great introduction. Block picker. So that's one of the reasons why we actually went away from, or one of the solutions to go away from different templates is we have now introduced blocks. You can actually construct your story using blocks, mix and match. It's up to you. There's different types of blocks and more to come. Themes, one-click themes. I would say it's a designer in a box kind of feature, right? Beautifully designed, you can expect a lot more. Express maps. We're going to see one, and Cooper already talked about it. We also give you amazing story cover options. One of the tips was start your story with a bang, and how do you do it is with different cover options. Branding, we have given you options to control color, some options of fonts, custom logo with a link. More will be coming. Web maps and web scenes. We love web maps just like you guys do. And we have not only embraced it, we have actually made it better. You can do a lot more things with it within the new StoryMaps. What else? Draft public workflow. This is more in close to how you guys work. You want to publish, you want to make some changes, take some time, and republish again. And we give you this option to, it's like a holding pattern. Next is mobile optimized for free or as part of the product itself. You don't have to do anything. We try our best to deliver your stories in the best possible way to the end users around the world. Okay? You just author your story, click a button, publish, and we will take care of the rest. We'll make sure it's amazingly fast and available throughout the world anywhere. We try all sorts of technical things behind the scenes. Embedding web URLs is a very common thing in many stories, and we have not only given you that, but we have actually extended that a lot more. We actually allow you to embed iframes, that is any HTTP URLs, but we also automatically give you smart cards. And we also integrate about 500 popular services. So I'll show you what that means in a short while. Sharing, we know you guys want to share stories. We want it to go viral. We want you to spread the word and actually tell great stories. So we have enabled sharing from the ground up. So we have done everything possible behind the scenes. We give you automatic Twitter cards, open graph meta tags for Facebook and other sites. We even have an OEmbed spec, if you know what it is. It's an embeddable spec. We even have some SEO built into each story that you create so that things like Google can crawl you and actually make it searchable, right? You don't have to do anything. We just take care of these things for you. Accessibility is fully built in. The entire product is accessible, and we continue towards that. The entire product is localized. The story you write is not localized, but the actual product itself is localized. So if you write a story in a different language, everything will look in the same language. And then we even support the right to left and many, many more. I can keep going. Rather than that, let me actually shift gears and show you a demo. Since most of you know StoryMaps, I will not start from scratch, but if you're not sure how to get started, you just go to storymaps.arcgis.com. Okay? If you go to storymaps.arcgis.com, there's a sign in button. Please, since many of you are paying attention, let me just show it to you. So you go to storymaps.arcgis.com, and once you come here, it's going to look something like this. You can learn more if you click on the overview link. You can learn more. We have an amazing marketing and resources link. You can actually learn a lot more about the product and what it does. You can also take a look at some of the sample stories out there, and some of the things that Cooper was showing is actually available here. And then the other thing is, who can access StoryMaps? There was a question downstairs, so I thought I'll just answer it here. Okay. Looks like we got caught up in the internet thing. Let me just try again. All right, if you actually go to storymaps.arcgis.com, and if it loads, you will be able to click on the login button, and in that login button, you can enter your ArcGIS credentials, the organizational account that you have, that you use right now, or there you go. Or if you don't have an account and if you're just curious, you can also either use a public account that you have previously created or just create one just to test it out, all right? So it's easy to get started. Now that you know how to get started and you have actually heard all the features, let me show you. Once you log in, it's going to go to My Stories. If you're a part of an organization, that is, you're not a public account, then you do get this My Organization tab. And if I click on that, I can see all the amazing stories my organization has produced, right? It's cool. You can actually discover, you can actually look at it. But I'm interested in my story, so I'm actually coming here. So while Cooper was talking, I was actually constructing this story, as you can see it. So I started this story. I wanted to talk about the wonders of the world, right? By the way, I'm not a storyteller, but I'm trying to follow his tips. So one of the tips he said was to start with a bang, and we told you we've given you some options. What are my options? If you come and start a story, this is the default option. You can add an image or a video. So let me show you. So I can actually click on an image and then say, okay, I want to add an image. So it's pretty easy. You just select an image and then you actually get it, and then you can actually place your panel anywhere you want. We've even done some cool things, like if you actually go to the image properties, we also have something called as focal point. This is important because when you're actually looking on a phone, if you see there, we have a phone preview, both portrait and landscape. Sometimes the image don't get represented correctly. So you might want to tell us which is more important. So suppose I feel Taj Mahal is more important to me, then I'll actually put the focal point over there, and we'll do our best to deliver that piece of that image perfectly on the device that you open. If you can show everything, we'll show everything. Otherwise, we'll do our best, okay? And then say suppose you want to change this, then you can actually go to the design panel and then choose between the different options. You can go very simple and say, no, I just want simple. It's a simple text, simple description, I'm actually good. Or you can go a side-by-side view and say, oh yeah, actually I kind of like this. This is the way. Or you can even flip it if you want to. Or you can go with the default. I kind of like this. I'm going to just keep this over here. So I've started to actually put some text here. It's pretty easy to add some text. You can either start typing, or you can actually click on the plus button over here, and you get a bunch of options. You get many text options, you get all the other options. You can write a quote, or you can even select some text and change some sort of a formatting. All the things you expect from a text kind of editor. Now, the next thing I want to add to this is I've started a story on Grand Canyon, and then say, for example, I want to add a call to action like what Cooper was actually mentioning. So how do I add a call to action? I come here, you can add it in many ways. One of the ways you could do it is you can add a button. In this button, you can say, okay, follow us on Twitter. So I want them to follow us on Twitter so that they can actually get updates and actually follow us. So how do I do that? I actually do this and then go to Twitter, for example. So if I have a Twitter handle, I can just copy that over here and then put it as a link, and then I'm done. So if somebody comes here and clicks it, it'll just take them over there. That's pretty cool. So also I had a note over here to add a web map. So how do I add a map or a web map over here? It's actually pretty straightforward. You just click plus, and then you click on a map. The first thing you're going to see is, it says that you do not have any map. I have not created any map, right? I'm not a cartographer or anything. I don't know how to create a map, so it's fine. I don't have a map. So if you're a part of an organization, you can just go to My Organization, or actually go to the Living Atlas that we provide, and you can grab any map. It so happens that for my demo here, one of my colleagues have actually created a nice web map. It says 7 Wonders of the World, right? That's pretty cool. I actually click on that. I see the demo. I actually see the map. I'm pretty happy. I can even make changes. I can actually hide some layers or even change certain things, change the extent. Maybe I just want to concentrate on this part of the world, and then I'll say place the map, and then I'm done, right? Easy. You could have done web maps. You could have also done web scenes. Just works the same way. Not only that, we also do some other things. We also give you options to change the size of the map. You can actually just make it wider, full screen, right? Sort of medium, large. And you could also just make it into a small float. And if you do actually float it, you can actually write some text over here, right? So this actually gives you so let me just copy this just for the ease of it. Oops. But you guys get the idea, right? You can actually type text here or copy anything over here, and it would just float. So these are some of the nice things. So we also talked about Express Maps. Express Map is just like any other map. I can change the size. So I've started creating this Express Map, and let me show you how it looks like. So I click on Edit, and if you see here, I already have 2 points. So I've started the Wonders of the World. So first one was the Grand Canyon over here. So I actually did that. It has a nice image and some text. I also started with one more over here, but then I'm actually interested in adding one more. So let me show you how to do that. So here there's a locator. I can actually find the other one that I want to add. In this case, I want to add the Taj Mahal. Okay, so it's going to come over here, and I can clearly see that it is actually showing me the right place. That's great. So I can just add this to the map. And because I actually searched and add this to the map, just to save you a few clicks, we just add the title and everything ready for you to go. So how do you add your image? It's pretty simple. We just click on Add Image, and then pick a photo. Actually, you're done. It's as simple as that, right? So if I actually click on this right now, you can actually see the pop-up is already populated. And this pop-up will get represented in the phones, in the tablets, perfectly the way you want it, okay? So this is how you do. But Express Maps is a lot more. So one other cool thing that I can do is I can add some annotations. So here it is. I don't want anybody to click the pop-up. I just want them to know what it is. So I can actually say Taj Mahal, my favorite place, or something like that, right? I can actually adjust the size, move it around, and even create a leader line. How cool is that?
There we go.
Yeah. I'm not going to... Okay, since you guys clapped, I'm going to show you one more thing, okay? All right, the other cool thing you can do about this is we have something called as numbered points. We always know we have points, but how cool is numbered points? You keep adding, we keep increasing the number. Small convenience, but it's actually pretty cool. And you saw there was a nice animation too. All right, the next you can draw lines. You've all seen drawing lines, so I'm going to first draw a line, but then I'm going to show you something really nice. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to show you is you can actually make more segments. That is cool, but what you have actually not seen is this. Are you guys ready? All right. Okay. You're being nice to me, so I'll actually continue now. Now, say I want to actually point something. So we also have an arrow, right? And as you expect, these arrows are also bendable. So you can have single arrows, double arrows, it's up to you. So the other thing is you can actually do that. Next, just to make it more interesting, we can also trace any line you want. The faster you trace, the more straighter the line. The slower you trace, the more denser the line. Okay? And then you can still bend it along and change it. All right? I mean, there's a lot more to this. I'm not going to spend more time. But if you don't like anything, you can either press delete or just come to this trash bin over here and then drop it over there and it's gone. Okay? So this is ExpressMap for you. You can also do things like change base maps and stuff like that. I'll let you explore it. Say suppose I'm happy with this. You just place the map and then you're done and you have the same sizing options and the rest. Cool. It's really getting fun. Now we get to the other side of it. So we can actually add more things. He wanted to show you that having a rhythm, having something, changing it up so that people actually read your story. Sidecar is a great option. I actually clicked the plus button, right? Let me just show it to you. And if I actually click the plus button over here, you'll see an option to add a sidecar, right? So I just added that sidecar over here, and I started one more wonder over here. I gave it a title, I gave it an image. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add a video. Adding video is also pretty simple. If you have an MP4, you can just, give the MP4 to us, and then we'll upload it, and we'll make sure it works on your device correctly, and then there you go. You can actually add a lot of value to these stories by just having these immersive video sections. So you can add a map, you can add a web scene, you can add an image, you can add a video, you can add any of those things over there.
And just an additional note for those wondering, these videos are going to play on mobile devices, which was not the case in the classic templates. Cool.
An added bonus. All right. Cool. Good. I was about to stop. All right. Let's continue. So we do know that you can embed, right? So let me show you what are the different things you want to embed. I'm actually talking about, say, Grand Canyon, for example. I can embed a website. In this case, I'll just go simple and copy a Wikipedia website. I come here and I embed a website. You could think of any website, anything, right? Your own website, ArcGIS apps, any kind of website. And then I click Save. See, we are trying to figure out what kind of thing this is. And you see magically a card appears. Okay? So this is the new web card or a smart card that we have. Now you might say, oh, this is great, but I actually wanted the actual website to be there. I don't want it to be a card. So we said, okay, that's fine. You guys can do it too. Just click on this button and it becomes a real website. You can actually embed a real website. Now, if this website, you can also actually resize it into a medium website or a large website. And these are the problems with websites sometimes. It doesn't load, right? But that's just dependent on the internet. But if it loads, then you would actually see it. So this is one other way of doing it. And you might decide, you know what, it's actually just safe to just have a card over here. The other kind of embed that you can have is any kind of social media embeds. So you might have Flickr, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook video, any kind of, we support about around 500 of them. Let me show you an example. Here there is a Twitter or a tweet, right? This is from the Grand Canyon account, and I actually want to advertise this tweet, say for example. So what I do is I can just copy an URL. You don't have to worry, just copy a URL, and then you actually paste it over here and click Save. So what we are doing is we are now analyzing what did you paste, and then we figure out, if the internet works, that it is actually a tweet, and because of that we will actually place this tweet correctly as a Twitter feed or actual tweet in your story for you automatically. So this would work for any of the 500. So it could work for your videos, Facebook posts, or Instagram, or any story, anything, right? It will actually represent it correctly in your story over here. I think the internet is not cooperating today, but you guys get the idea, right? So there's a lot of these things that you can do, and these are all the things that we have done. Oh, by the way, this is still in the draft mode, right? I can always click publish, and when I actually click publish, it'll ask you for the different options. And the other thing that I could do is actually completely change the way this app looks and feels. So for example, here I kind of like this, but I might want to just choose a different theme. So I go for a dark theme. you guys see what happened? The entire story changed, right from fonts, spacing, colors of the map, text, background, links, every single thing changed. If you're impressed with PowerPoint, just wait till you use this, right? So these are the options. And then what our designers also did was, we kind of knew we want to customize. So we kind of give you that, hey, with this design, these 3 colors go well. So I can actually change it. So did you see? Completely changed. Or I could actually change this to this. But you might say, no, our company has a very specific brand color and still use it. Okay? You can still type in your own color, but just saying. The other thing you can do right now is actually pick between a few font pairings. In the future, we will increase this, but this is coming. Okay? The other thing that you can do is upload a custom logo. What's going to happen if you upload custom logo is, for example, let me just use this. You see this custom logo comes over here. So when you share the story, the StoryMaps logo will not be there. It'll be your logo with the story, and if somebody clicks on it, you might want to take it to your website or something like that. It's more of the branding options that we're giving. Okay? So this was a quick tour. Please explore, create your own stories. Okay? Are you guys happy? Good, excited? Okay. Now, are you guys ready to see what we are going to do next? Yes. All right. Okay, so the road ahead. Okay, please don't take any pictures. Now, first things first, please read the top heading. What does it say? Features you're working on, and it's subject to change. Okay? That doesn't mean we will not do it, but just don't take it literally for the date that we're going to tell. I'm not going to give you any dates, but these are the things that we are working on. Okay? We love Express Maps, and we're going to make it even more awesome. Okay? Since it's so awesome, I'll not tell you what we're going to do, but I'll give you a hint. We are actually working on data layers. Okay? I'll leave it at that. Cool. All right. I know I didn't show you. That's fine. I'm not going to show you what it looks like. That's fine. The next thing we are looking for, map tours. Map tours is coming to the next generation. It'll be more awesome and much, very different and awesome than what you've seen so far. We know we also have to work on simple things like map swipe and some other enhancements, and we are working on that. We are continuously working on mobile enhancements. It already looks amazing on your phone. You should try one of the stories that's out there. But we are even going further. And you'll see what in a second. We are also introducing a brand new horizontal layout. So you saw me scrolling up and down, right? Now you can actually swipe left and right too. We are not giving a competition to Tinder. However, we will for presentations like PowerPoints, okay? You will be definitely able to go horizontal or vertical. It's up to you. And then we are actually working on a cool thing called collections. If you have ever used map series, how many of you have used map series here? Some of you. Have you ever wished you had a better bookmarking solution using StoryMaps? Yes? Oh, we heard you. We are introducing a brand new and very exciting concept called collections, and I'll give you a sneak peek pretty soon. And then we are also working on themes like what Cooper said. Okay, are you guys ready to see something? Yes? All right, let's see. The first thing is, this is how the next generation map tour might look like. Okay? It's going to be awesome. Building it will be a breeze, and it's going to look great and work great on your phones. Okay? In fact, you will want to build a map tour just because it looks good. How about that? Next, this is an early concept of a map swipe. This is how potentially you could be adding and comparing 2 layers within a map or 2 maps. Okay? This is just a rendering, but you guys get the idea. This is going to be there too. You know, a couple of you liked it, but that's good. Don't feel shy. It's okay. All right, mobile enhancements. Most of it is already there, but you just see the attention to detail here. There you go. This is especially useful when we introduce map tours, because in map tours you have a map and you have points on a map, but you also have photos, right? So you want a great experience on a phone. That is what we're actually working on. Next is something brand new you have never seen before in StoryMaps, but we already talked about it. Next is the horizontal layouts. You will be able to tell stories which actually look like slides, right? And the best part about it is this is not a template. This is just part of your blocks. So you can just have a story with a horizontal layout, or you can actually have a vertical story with a horizontal block in it. Are you guys getting it? It's up to you. So more options. Okay? So the next thing we are going to introduce is collections. As you can see, here's a collection, here's a landing page for a collection, here are the things, and then you go into the presentation mode. There you go, beautiful collection of websites, web URLs, images, videos, stories, anything you want. Okay? So we think this is pretty big. You can actually have collections, and each collection can have a topic, and each topic can have your thing. This is great for if you have a lot of stories and you want to sort of group it based on a theme or group it based on a topic, right? This is going to be amazing. You can put it on your websites. This could be your resume. This could be your portfolio. I can't imagine what you guys will do with this, but you guys get the idea? By the way, it's all included. No extra charge. Yeah, apart from this, we're also working on new themes. I don't want to go details, but you're going to get a lot of cool ways. So we're going to give you some themes, amazing themes that our designers have done, and you can customize a little bit on that. But before you ask, we are thinking about giving you fully customized themes too, but it's coming. It's not in our current roadmap, but it's coming. So just wait for it. And then, since you've been a great audience, I can also tell you that we'll do all of this by the end of this year. How about that? Okay, so I am planning to have 3 more releases after this, but it doesn't matter how many releases we have. By the end of this year, we are planning to have everything done. I mean, the things that we have shown. It means that we have a lot more things to come, okay? So join us in the next conference to see the next set of things that's going to come. Thank you, everyone, and I'm going to pass it back to Cooper, who's going to take it from here.
Thanks, Satya. I hope you enjoyed that nice little demo. A couple sort of housekeeping things that we want to mention. Some of you may be familiar with the Storytelling with Maps competition from years past. We're doing that again this year, but it's a little bit different. And it's called the StoryMapper of the Year competition. And instead of evaluating the entries just on the basis of the story themselves, we're also going to ask you to propose a project that you can do in your community. And there's a $5,000 grand prize, but we expect you to actually apply that $5,000 toward that community project. And lastly, we ask that you provide feedback on our presentation. If you enjoyed it, let us know. This helps us know what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's it. We'd like to open it up for some questions now. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah?
Yeah, what's the plan to transition existing story maps in the old format into the new format? Are they just going to be changing some features, like stay the same, and then just the new features are going to be unlocked and you can change it, or will it have to be completely rebuilt? Or
Correct.
what's that process look like?
That's a good question. We've been pretty open about it, and I can share it again. So we have no plans to either take away the old story maps, or we don't even want to call it the old story maps, right? Because it's a very popular product. You guys love it. And we call it the classic so that we can differentiate the version. So the idea is that we are not building any export tool, convert tool, any of that. Your stories are great. It will continue to work. You can keep editing it, okay? So what we want you to do is in parallel start using this new product and slowly transition into this new product for your new stories. We ask that if you are going to create new stories, please take a look at this first, and only if it doesn't fit your bill, you need to go back and use the classic. And over time, I said hopefully by December, you will have everything you need and more to absolutely use this as your next generation storytelling tool. So because we don't want to take away the old one or actually just sunset it soon, we are not going to we're not going to force you anything. We want to build a product that's so great that you yourself will use it, right? So that is the idea. So we're not going to actually ask anything to be auto-converted, auto-copy. It's a copy and paste, so you can copy from here to that if you want to, but just an option. You don't have to. Okay?
So to ask it the same, different way, if we want to move to the new format, we
Correct.
have to do the copy and paste and basically rebuild it in the
Right. If you want to recreate the new story, you can reuse your web maps, the web scenes. You can reuse your images that you have created, all those things. And the text also can be reused. It's just a manual copy and process. And it's pretty simple to do. Our editorial team, a big kudos to them. They've been using this product for about 8 years now. And they have transferred, if not all, at least half of their stories to the new StoryMaps, and it's been a pretty painless process for them. So we have observed how they've done it, and they write very complex stories, very large stories, and they've been pretty happy with it. So it's a pretty seamless experience, I would say. Any other questions? All right. Will you be able to drive a collection with a feature service? Just wait for our update on collections. You'll be surprised what we have. Yes.
In enterprise, will you be able to limit your sharing to groups, or is it?
Perfect. Can I limit my sharing? Yes, you can actually publish to everyone or to your organization, and very soon we'll also be exposing to groups, okay, within your organization. Does that answer your question? Yes. Yes.
Other people in this room at this meet, but in France we have some custom icon from Esri France, and we have some customer demanding the capability of customizing a little better, easily the style, the theme by customizing the font, etc. You said that okay, it's in the roadmap, but not soon.
Right.
Any idea of the?
Correct. So we're collecting feedback on fully custom themes. We have an amazing set of designers. We've only exposed 2 themes, but I'll tell you there's a lot to come. You'll be surprised. So our first goal is to cover the 90% use case, which is switch between themes and customize a little bit. And then we are going to work on, because we have a good theme specification now, we have come up with a theme specification, and we know how to create those themes. The work that is remaining to expose it to you for fully customized themes is to build an interface for it so that you guys can actually enter some values. And also there's a lot of legalities in fonts, so we're still working through that, because we cannot host your fonts because there's some legal issues around that. If that's not the case, what is the free fonts? And some of the free fonts doesn't work in all languages. I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to think about. But apart from that, there's not, I mean, it's just a matter of time. So hopefully the next time I meet you in any of the conference, I can actually give you better news, right? Yes. Any other question? Yes.
Possible to take several hundred photos that are all geolocated, just dump them in, build a story map from them quickly?
So you're telling to build a map tour, you mean, right?
Yes.
Correct. When the map tour feature gets introduced, we will definitely consider the ease of importing photos. And if the photo has any geotagged information, we will definitely take that into account. We will also take into account any feature service that you have that might already have some attachments. All those use cases are being considered for the map tour feature. Yes.
Will collections be nested or have folders?
Correct. So collection itself is a single level nesting. A collection will have a bunch of items.
Okay.
Correct? And technically, we don't want you to, but technically you could put a collection inside a collection, though it might be interesting, but it's up to you, right? We can't prevent you, but I'm just saying, then we'll have to add the 10th tip in his storytelling tips, saying that do not put things inside things, right? Yes. Yes. What would you do with the short list? We are definitely looking into how to incorporate some of the features it has. So in terms of classic and what features it has and what kind of thing and the next generation story maps, what we're looking in terms of a transition or equivalency is, what are the kinds of stories that you can tell using classic, right? You will be able to tell similar stories or the same kind of stories and more using the next generation. It might not be called the same, it might not have the same button, the same text and the same kind of look and feel, but ultimately when you recreate it or when you create a new story, you will have the same set of capabilities and more to tell your stories. That is how we are actually progressing behind the scenes. So what that means is we might take journal and cascade and fold it into one and give you a linear view with all the features in it. We might actually say maybe this was not even needed, maybe it was a mistake we did this, so we're going to eliminate that and actually move to a different set of things. So all those things are being discussed behind the scenes. So all the things that you have in shortlist will most probably be accommodated in different ways using the new story maps. So it won't be called shortlist or anything, it'll all be blocks in the future. Any other question? Yeah, you can ask one more.
So a lot of the stories, like our shortlist story map isn't really a story, it's just a map, it's a list of facilities, and we categorize the facilities into tabs. I was thinking at some point, like, it'd be nice if this was more like, based on web app builder. So are there any plans for a web app builder and experience builder to take over certain types of apps, and you guys focus more on those?
You can bring any type of app into StoryMap using the embed, right? You can build exactly what you want, right? In an experience builder, web app builder, or any other builder, it doesn't matter. Get the URL, embed it within a StoryMap. But StoryMap cannot be, StoryMap is its own product. It's going to live by itself. Any other question? Cool, are you guys excited? We are excited. Thank you for using it. Please continue and let us know feedback. Actually, I forgot to mention, there is a direct feedback in the product. Do you have any screen that's correct? If you actually log into the product, there is a direct feedback link that we have done, okay? And that actually directly comes to me and a few other colleagues. So if you don't want to go to support, don't ask support questions, please. We will not get back to you. But if you actually have a specific direct feedback that we have not addressed or you think will be a good thing to address, if you can click on that and actually give us a great rating and then continue on by telling us what you need, and please be very specific and give us enough information. And also if there is any screenshots or a video that you want to attach so that we can take a look at it, maybe you find some other site that does it and we want something like this. And also if it will be great if you can give us your email so that we can get back to you and have a conversation, or we might set up an online meeting to understand more. If you want to engage us at that level, please reach out to this, right? If you have any product level questions, how to do this, how to do that, we have forums, we have support, we have Twitter, all that kind of stuff, okay? If you want to talk to me or you want a call back from us and you want to set up a meeting, then this is a great way for you to get back to us. We're looking for good feedback, anything that we might have missed, anything that is cool out there that we don't know about, please let us know and we'll be happy to look into it, all right? Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.